Welcome back. I'm here with the Democratic nominee, Gary King, and we were talking about the economy before we went for break. Let's continue that conversation because it's important to people. Ultimately, you know, what the campaigns, with the political side of it, people look at it, but when it comes down to it, people worry about how is this person going to create jobs for me? So we're going back to the smaller businesses, not the, you know, when I say smaller, I'm talking just like you said, 1 or 2 employees and such. What do we do with them? Is it like roughly around 150,000 of small businesses like that? And even if one of them added an extra additional employee, like I think you said that in one of your interviews, creates an additional amount of revenue for the state. Is that something that you still feel would be?
Very much so, and I think it's one of the problems with the policy that we have in place currently, because the governor, in order to do the tax cuts for multinational corporations that she did, really forced cities and counties to increase their gross receipts tax, because in order to balance the budget, they took authority away from, or some protections that we had for local governments away, and the local governments have to raise their gross receipts tax. Well, for small businesses, you know, one of the taxes that impacts them is indeed the gross receipts tax. In several ways. I mean, it impacts them because when it goes up, then they get less competitive compared to people in other communities outside of New Mexico. But you know, they're more likely to pay a tax because maybe they go buy their paper at you know, at a local store, and they pay the gross receipts tax for that, where a big multinational corporation might have a contract to buy tons of paper from somewhere. And so, you know, the economies of scale are different. And so, you know, in order for us to help small business, we have to think like small business. And I had my own small business. It was a law firm, but I had 3 employees basically in my business, and I spent about 30% of my time just dealing with tax issues and all those kinds of things, and regulatory issues. And so for small business, if we can generate a system where the person who owns the business is spending more time making money and generating revenue and less time dealing with the red tape from government, that would be a real help to small business. And so people say, how are you going to do that? You know, how are you going to help small business? That's how we help small business. I don't think it's by some sort of grandiose big tax package or whatever. It's by paying attention to what's most important to small business. So as governor, I would create like a small business council where people could, you know, small business people could meet with me on a monthly basis and talk to me about what's really impacting their business, and then that's how you know what.
So you would create like a task force dealing?
Absolutely, yeah. I think that we would want to have
specifically with small micro businesses. Right?
Absolutely, that's part of our plan.
Because there is no such thing like there's no liaison there in the current office. I'm not knocking them.
Yeah.
There is no liaison there as far as if you start a business. You came in from, say, Louisiana looking to do business here. You start up. No one really helps you. You have to kind of go out there, figure it out, go online, see if you can. It's pretty difficult.
Correct.
For small.
And there are other states. We were talking about Nevada. Nevada does a very good job of, you know, when small businesses come to work with them, they do a very good job of they'll meet you at the airport and drive you to an office where there's an ombudsman who can help you. Here's the permits you need if you're going to work, if you're going to have a business in Las Vegas or in whatever city. Here are the county permits that you need. They're very helpful in dealing with those kinds of things. And I'm aware of local small businesses here, even in Albuquerque, where it's taken them 6 months or 9 months to get a permit to operate, and you can't keep your funding for long enough to get your business started for a small business if you've got to wait 9 months to get the doors open.
Correct. And there's a lot of small, all you have to do is drive down some of our main streets in Albuquerque here in Santa Fe. All these businesses that are shutting down and leaving, how do we stop them from leaving? What do we do with these, the ones that are saying, well, I'm going to close this thing up and I'm leaving, I'm out of here.
Sure.
And in some cases, they'll never return because, you know, you go and hang your hat somewhere else. Why would you come back to good old New Mexico? Sure. Is there anything specific do you think you will consider, like having a study done as far as micro loans or something where we work with the state and they are able to get help? Like, you know how in some other nations, actually, United States actually doing this. And you study some of the foreign nations.
Well, funding is very important. There's a movement out there, and I think there's only one state that has a state-owned bank, and that's North Dakota or South Dakota. North Dakota, I believe, that has a state-owned bank. But I think that we, at a minimum, should generate some sort of lending capability that helps small businesses that need, say, $10,000
The small,
or $1,000
yeah,
even.
$10,000, $20,000.
You know,
yeah.
but probably on the order of $10,000 to be able to come in and get that at some sort of reasonable rate. You know, my office has actually prosecuted lenders that were lending $10,000 but at 1,000% interest, you know, or at 600% interest. You know, there are companies out there that really, I think, drive people into a cycle of debt that we've been working on in the AG's office to try and break that cycle of debt. And New Mexico's biggest problem, you know, that relates to not having jobs is that we have the highest rate of poverty in the country. We certainly have the highest rate of children living in poverty in the country.
Correct, yeah.
And so, you know, I think that we have to address those issues of poverty. We have to make sure that the jobs that we create are jobs that pay a living wage. And so, you know, I know that small businesses have said, well, how do we balance, you know, the pressures that we have related to that and pay a better minimum wage, for instance. But it's really my perspective that if people that are working at that level make a living wage, they go out and spend that money. They don't, by and large, save. People that are making less than $30,000 a year are not able to save very much. They use every bit to put food on the table and to pay their rent and such. So that money does go back into the system, and it generates interest in the system. So if we don't have a robust, you know, working class in New Mexico, then that's bad for all of our economy. And so I think just catering to the top 1%, as they say now, and not being concerned about working people in New Mexico is really where the current governor has made her biggest mistake.
And I think we've lost a lot of brains going to other states and stuff. Like I mentioned to you, Texas created 385,000 jobs. Even Colorado, 70,000, some change there. In Arizona, 40,000 plus jobs. Even Utah created an extra 44,000 jobs. And we're in the negative 5,900.
Yes.
So this is a very poor record as far as looking at just the job creation. And this is what most people are concerned about, is if I go to school, I can't get a job, they're already looking to leave. I know that's getting into the academics there and how we can give them incentives to stay via training or things like that. Ultimately, I think they would like a person, whether it's her or you, that can create the jobs, at least stabilize our economy. Because
Yes.
we could look like we were called the death spiral state by Forbes magazine, I think.
Yeah.
It's shameful, some of the stuff that we hear constantly, and it kind of gives us this perception that, you know, the outsiders, that, well, this is not a place to do business at all.
Sure. Well, so one of the things that we're talking about in my plan to help New Mexico's economy is right now one of the good programs that we have is the job training funds, where if somebody hires one new person or has a brand new person, we help to fund that person for a year to do training and such. But one of the things we're talking about is expanding that program out over 3 years so that there's incentive not to just hire somebody for a year, which some of the big companies come in, hire somebody for a year, and then they let them go. But if we had a 3-year program where people can continue to get some support for 3 years, I think that's the bootstrap that it'll take to get, you know, to get us jump started so that we can get out and do that. And those are, it's not an expensive program. It's been very successful. And so to expand that program, I think would be really beneficial.
We have to start somewhere with that, and then I think this is some of the other plans. Was there anything else specifically that you can think of that would help the economy per se when you were looking
Sure.
at just stabilizing it? We're just looking to stabilize right now because we're going downwards, and at some point you have to stabilize the patient before you can
Sure.
save him permanently.
Well, the other infrastructure that's important is, you know, we have to have good fire protection, good police protection, good roads, and so I think that New Mexico right now there's a perception that you know that we're having trouble with our police agencies, and so you know we need to help cities like Albuquerque to modernize their police force to improve the image that we have in New Mexico so that people will want to come here and site here. And that's, I'm not even raising that because of the current problems that we're having, but a number of years ago I was down in the Las Cruces area, and a friend of mine was showing me that on the Texas side there are factories and on the New Mexico side there are not. And he said, you know, the difference here, because the weather's the same, the infrastructure is kind of the same, but he said they have a better fire rating in Texas because their fire departments are more well funded. And so if you have a fire in your plant, you know that that somebody's going to get there quicker. And so that kind of infrastructure is really important too, to make sure that people understand, as if they're going to cite a business here, that if they have a fire in their business, that there's somebody there that can help them. If they have a robbery, that somebody's going to be there to help them. And so that's one of the things I've learned as the Attorney General, is that we need to have that kind of infrastructure as well.
As you know, you're running for governor. What do you hear? We like to know what are people telling you when you're on the campaign trail? What are they asking you besides the economy? I know the economy is like the forefront of everybody's mind.
Well, one of the biggest topics, of course, is what the current administration has done to the behavioral health program.
Correct.
You know that we have
Human
programs that are
Services.
designed in our
Correct.
Human Services Department to help people, and I think people are perceiving that the government, through our workforce solutions, through the Human Services Department, is not providing those services to help people. I'm hearing that a lot.
Let me take a short break. We'll come back. We'll continue it from there, from the health and human, because I have some questions there I wanted to ask you regarding
Good.
that. Okay, so we'll come right back. We'll take a short break. We'll be right back.